Hello, everybody. Adam Parks here with another episode of Receivables Roundtable. Today, I'm here with two good friends, a past president and the current president of ACA International, Mr. Roger Weiss and David Williams. How you gentlemen doing today?
Doing really well, Adam. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Glad to get you back on. David, glad to have you back on Receivables Roundtable. Roger, it has taken me many years, but I finally got you here and cornered and on camera. So excited for today's episode. But for anyone who has not been as lucky as me to get to know you gentlemen through the years at the various conferences, Roger, starting with you, could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you got to the seat that you're in today?
Sure. Well, I've been in the business since 93, I think. And I started out as a phone collector. I had a knack for it. I realized that it was about how you treat people. And I don't mean brutally. I mean fairly and with some providing some dignity and respect and to the consumers. And I've grown from there. I stumbled into a great opportunity. And I've just been so fortunate to have the right people in my life along the way, including likes Nick DiGiovanni, Deborah Siskey, David's dad, Gary, and so many others. I can't even begin to list them. And I don't know. Well, I do know where I would be. I'd be anywhere but here if it weren't for the things I've learned throughout the years from ACA.
Fair statement, and definitely appreciate your background. David, I know you've come on here once before, but for anyone who hasn't seen that episode yet, which we will link below, could you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you got to the seat you're in today?
Yeah, sure. And I do appreciate the alphabetical order. Roger, I know you're used to going first in the alphabetical order deals, so I'm glad Adam went that direction. Excuse me. But Adam, thanks for having us today. Excited to be here. Excited to be with you again. It's always very informative and good discussion. So thanks for having me. Yeah, I started full time in the business in 2000. I did grow up around the business a little bit. I am second generation. My dad and his partner started Williams and Fudge in 1986. So I did get to, put some shelves together and file some papers and get some phone books at rest areas growing up and all the things that you hear of second or third generation people doing. So, but when I started and those phone books were for skip tracing, for those of you that may not know, we needed to find people that way. So, boy, that makes me sound old. But I started in 2000 in sales, so I sold for Williams and Fudge for about 8 years and enjoyed that part. Then moved internally, and that was the time when I kind of really got engaged with ACA and the things that make ACA what it is. Working with different people, meeting mentors, meeting friends, meeting people like you guys, and that's where we need to be going as an industry and working together and being, a unified front. So I'm looking forward to continuing that. But Williams and Fudge has grown. We predominantly historically work with higher education institutions and doing institutional receivables. And we've worked and acquired a couple companies recently to get into some different areas in financial services and looking at some other opportunities as well. So we continue to be dedicated to this industry. Dedicated to ACA. One of the things that I think is important is, quickly you go from you're looking at people that are president of ACA and others that are on the screen going, wow, I've got a lot to learn. All of a sudden you learn a lot, and then you're on the screen trying to mentor other people or teach other people. So anybody new to the industry, that happens quick. So I look forward to some great discussion, and thanks again for having me today, Adam. And anytime I can do something with Roger, I'm in. So,
you bring up an incredibly true statement that we, really, I think this community from ACA's perspective really comes together. I think there's some incredible opportunities to network, to learn, and to grow. I think all three of us have come from, grown up through associations and kind of learned our way around the business through that perspective, which brings me to kind of my favorite thing of the year is going to some of the annual conferences. And I know we've got the ACA annual conference coming up at the end of July in San Diego. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the things that are happening there at the conference this year, you know, for those that are veterans of the industry and even for those that are first timers coming in, and maybe some tips and tricks for how to be successful and how to kind of get the ball rolling within the ACA community. So let me start by kind of asking my first question here about, you know, what's new at ACA this year that people really want to sink their teeth into and get engaged.
Well, I'll dive in there. I think one of the things that we've really been focused on the last few years, especially this year, is to allow networking opportunities and allow people to come together. I think there's a lot of opportunities to do these kinds of webinars and podcasts, and that's great. I mean, I think that's one of the best things that came from COVID is that we do this now instead of trying to deal with conference calls where, people call in and you have to say your name after the beep and then nobody knows who's talking and all of that stuff. So this is great, but this makes it hard to network as much because there are people that are watching and listening and hopefully learning, but to be able to share a conversation, over coffee or do those kind of things, ACA is really trying hard to afford more of those opportunities at our shows. And one of the things that we've done with convention, and some of this is new, some of it's not, but allowing people that are coming, for example, for the first time, we have a first timers reception. So if you haven't been before, this is a great way to network and, see the other people that are walking around going, oh my gosh, what's going on here? So that you can understand. And we're working towards having some mentors that can help guide you through some of that process. But meeting people that are in situations like you. We also have our visionaries group who started a few years ago, and they have their own networking reception. And that's people that are looking, not just at the industry, but about what's going on in the world and making sure that we as an industry are keeping up with some of the changes going on in that area. So those are just two of the networking opportunities. I think you'll see that we've built in some other options so that you can not only go to the sessions and learn, but then talk to the peers and the people in the industry that you meet so that you can learn from them. And then one of the things I like to do when you are at a convention, you keep a record of the people that you meet because you're only there for 3 days and the rest of the year you need people that you can call on. There's your book right there. Perfect. And we did not plan that, right? We did not plan that. So, there was a time when it was all business cards. Now you might be scanning someone's badge to put it in your phone, but regardless, it's the same deal. It's people that you can call on.
I think you make a lot of great points there from a networking perspective. And one of the things that got brought up to me by my team about ACA this year was that you have the Dinners with Strangers event that's happening. And I want to say that's on Sunday night. So Catalina Dawson, who is on my team and joins me in a lot of the conferences, as we were planning for ACA, it was like, hey, this looks like something that is really interesting because I think those of us that have been around the industry for 20 plus years, right? Like we have our friend groups that we get to see only so often at various conferences. And so we have we're going to get together for dinner and do those kinds of things. But when you're newer to the industry, you don't always have those deep rooted relationships. I know I've always made it a point to try and bring at least one new person to each one of the dinners that I'm hosting, but that works out sometimes and not others. Now, the dinner with friends seems like a great opportunity, or dinners with strangers rather, it seems like a great opportunity to make some friends and to actually spend a meal with people. Sharing a meal seems to be one of the best networking events that we can do at any point in time. So organizing that in a way in which people are actually getting engaged and providing that opportunity to people who didn't have another opportunity for a dinner, I think is a really cool option.
I couldn't agree with you more, Adam. I've never done the dinner with strangers, but I think that what that allows is some people that may otherwise be somewhat introverted interact with others that may be somewhat introverted. So if you don't have a friend group or something, I would highly encourage you to jump into dinner with strangers. I know several veteran attendees that's one of the things they look forward to. So you never know who you're going to be at a table with. And you never know what networking opportunities those can bring. Adam, you asked the question, what's new this year? And I will just tell you, to me, the newest thing at ACA Convention is going to be the new challenges and new opportunities, right? So we got there's what's that group out in Washington? I think CFPB. They've got some stuff going on, and we're going to be talking a lot about advocacy there. David mentioned earlier before we went live about the ACPAC fundraiser, the cruise. Mm-hmm. I mean, how awesome is that? Perfect weather, perfect location, perfect group of friends, and then you have an opportunity to go on a cruise on the boat too. Unless we get Gilligan or something, it should be a lot of fun. But the other opportunities too, you're going to hear the words, you're going to hear advocacy a lot. You're going to hear the words AI bantered around, whether it's used or misused. It's still what the talk of the town is. You're going to hear about digital automation, and you're going to hear about data security. And if data security is not keeping you up at night, it should be. Even if you're so well wrapped, it's not even funny. I think that we've got a pretty darn good and robust system in place. But man, there's still times I just sit up in bed. Oh my gosh. Those kind of things. But new people. I'm going to meet new people. David's going to meet new people. Adam, you're going to meet new people. So I encourage even the most introverted first-time attendee, don't be afraid to go up and introduce yourself to someone or ask questions. Ask copious questions. Ask all kinds of questions. I promise you, I have asked questions at least 10 times dumber than anything you could ever come up with. You two guys can attest to that statement too. So I would just say the networking and what you talk about, what you learn in the sessions, but more so what you talk about in the halls and what you take home with you, and the peers that you meet at the convention that you interact with for the next, say, 30 years.
The hallway discussions fueled by the education are the most valuable aspect of any live event for me personally, right? And I'm going to throw out one more. We talked about some of the sessions there and some of the things that you've got going on with the privacy. There's also an e-commerce session that I'll be speaking on as well with Manny Placencia and Mark Reinhardt and Dave Snow, talking about really how digital collections has run a strong parallel to e-commerce, and we're not necessarily learning those e-commerce lessons yet. Are we ready to admit that we're an e-commerce business? It's a hard thing to start to think about, but I think those are the types of thought-provoking discussions that we're able to have after listening to these education sessions and being in a place when we're with our peers. I remember a few years ago, I met a couple of collectors at the ACA conference. So surprise, surprise. And when I was asking what they do, they were a little shy or a little gun shy and kind of skirting, what it was that their profession was. And I finally just looked at them and said, gentlemen, if you can't be proud to be a debt collector in this building, I don't know where on earth you can be proud of what it is that you do, because we all do the same thing here. We're all working towards the same common goals. And when you start bringing all of those people together for the camaraderie, for the sense of community, because we all come from different parts of the country, and when you create that sense of community, I think it really does provide some interesting opportunities, not just professionally but personally, to develop relationships.
And to add on to that, Adam, I think that's really well said, and I'm looking forward to your session about that, because it's moving so fast. And when you talk about what's new, I'm going to tell you where you will find a lot of new at ACA Convention is in the expo hall. If you're not visiting those booths in the expo hall, I mean, sure, pick up the squeeze ball or the phone charger. Or there's a company, I think, that gives out readers, and some of us now use readers. That's great. But stop and talk to our vendors and our partners. I like to call them partners because that's what they are, about what they do. Because for years and years, you would go through the expo hall, and you pretty much had software companies and letter vendors, right? And payment processors. Well, and there's nothing against those vendors because they're fantastic. They're evolving, we're evolving, And we're seeing all kind of new vendors in this industry. And these are vendors that are really, really pushing different types of technology, different types of thinking, different things that we haven't thought about, like you mentioned, e-commerce. And the expo hall, if you don't spend a lot of time there, you're missing a very big opportunity to meet people, to learn from people. And then you go to a booth and you're talking to, a certain technology vendor, and someone else is there talking about the same thing. There's another networking opportunity. So there's lots of new in the expo hall, and that's something that I think that as I've traveled around this year and seen the different shows, seen the different vendors, there's a lot of new in this industry, and you need to meet the new, because if not, you're going to get left behind.
I would throw on top of that, there are some incredible people in there. I don't differentiate member classes. Partners are partners, friends are friends. There's some incredible people in that expo hall. Even if you're not in the market to get a new collection software or payment provider or telephony system, talk to them, get ideas, get best practices. They might stimulate some questions that you might have. And I'm going to tell you, you don't want to hear about payment processing from someone like me, because I've got a very small perspective on it. Talk to the payment processors out there that are doing some incredibly cool things with portals and payment processing and pay through text and some other things like that. You will get your mind churning along. And the greatest thing about it is these technologies are becoming more and more affordable every day. So even if you've got a 5, 10, or 20 person company, some of these technologies you don't think you could have ever had, you can get into those at a price point that makes sense, that's affordable to you. And again, David, I don't remember what statement you made, but I remember thinking, yeah, the expo hall needs to be 50% of the information that you bring home needs to come from the vendor partners in the expo hall. So
I think that those that are sitting, those that are in the expo hall, those that are exhibiting, are ultimately helping people to solve the problems that we're talking about on stage in the education session. So when you want, right, and we make such a point not to talk about specific solutions when we're on stage, right? We're not talking about vendor A versus vendor B. So I think it's incredibly important that people take some time, walk around the exhibit hall, and learn about the solutions to some of the problems that are being discussed on stage, because there's nuances to each solution, whether we're talking about payment processing or portals or whatever the case may be, right? There's 1,000 different things. It really doesn't matter if you're in the market today. It's about understanding how is the market moving. And right, because even as CEOs, right, if you're an executive leader in your organization, you need to have a 5 and 10 year vision. And so you may not be in the marketplace today, but you got to be thinking about what the future holds. And I think a lot of the keys to what the future, what will unlock that future, exist in that expo hall.
agreed.
Well, gentlemen, I really appreciate you coming on and having a chat with me today. I cannot wait for the ACA annual conference coming up at the end of July. If you haven't registered for that conference yet, we'll be putting a registration link down below. You can go take a look at the agenda, see what's going to be hot going on at the ACA annual conference this year. And if you want to spend some time or get to meet each other personally at the conference, I'll be dropping my calendar link for the conference below as well, with some open times just to meet new people, right? To take that opportunity to network and spend some one-on-one time with some new people. But gentlemen, again, thank you so much for coming on today. Any final words to get people excited for ACA annual conference?
I do want to say, get engaged. I mean, start with the opening session, go to the president's dinner. That's how you meet the people. Go on the ACPAC boat tour. We're going to have a fantastic time on that. Get engaged. You're with people that do what you do. Maximize your time, and let's have some fun doing it. I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Commiseration, ladies and gentlemen, commiseration. I hope to see everyone out in San Diego. Adam, David, thank you again for having me on, and I can't wait.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you. For those of you that are watching, if you have additional questions you'd like to ask Roger, David, or myself, you can leave those in the comments on LinkedIn and YouTube, and we'll be responding to those. Or if you have additional topics you'd like to see us discuss, I'm hoping I can get these gentlemen to come back at least one more time to help me continue to create great content for a great industry. But until next time, or until we see you at the ACA annual conference, we'll see you all again soon. Thank you, everybody.